Psalm 23, the Shepherd, the Psalm. 23 is short, but it carries a whole journey. It begins in pasture, moves beside water, follows right paths, passes through the valley of the shadow of death, comes to a prepared table, receives oil and an overflowing cup, and ends in the house of the Lord. It is not only a poem about comfort, it is a confession of trust. David knew the world of shepherds. He knew sheep, hills, paths, water, danger, and the need for a hand that guides. So when he says, "The Lord is my shepherd," he is not reaching for a decoration. He is naming the kind of care that keeps a living creature alive. A shepherd had to notice what the sheep could not, where the grass was thin, where the water ran too fast, where the path narrowed, where a predator might hide. The sheep lived by the shepherd's knowledge, not their own. Hear the psalm now in the old translation. The words, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." That is the whole psalm. 6 verses. A shepherd, a path, a valley, a table, a house. The Lord is my shepherd. The psalm begins with belonging. The Lord is my shepherd, not merely a shepherd, not only the shepherd of someone else. My shepherd. A sheep does not keep itself alive by cleverness. It needs pasture, it needs water, it needs guidance, it needs protection from what it cannot see coming. A sheep can wander into danger simply by following the next patch of grass. David knows this. He had watched sheep move across the hills. He had seen how easily they could scatter, how quickly they could be frightened, how much they needed a shepherd who noticed them. So when he says, "I shall not want," he does not mean every passing wish will be met. He means he will not lack what the shepherd knows he needs. The psalm begins with trust before it begins with scenery. The Lord is my shepherd, therefore I shall not want. Green pastures, he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Green pastures are not accidental. In dry country, pasture must be found. The shepherd knows where grass has grown, where the flock can feed, where the ground is safe enough for the sheep to settle. The sheep are not described as racing or proving themselves. They are made to lie down because the shepherd has brought them to a place where they can be still. A sheep will not lie down easily if it feels threatened. It will not settle if it is hungry, restless, or afraid. The pasture in the psalm is therefore more than a pretty field. It is a place made safe by the shepherd's care. There is care in that. Grass underfoot, space enough for the flock, the shepherd nearby. No need for the sheep to search every hill by itself. The pasture is not luxury, it is provision. Still waters, he leadeth me beside the still waters. The shepherd does not drive the sheep toward a dangerous torrent. He leads them to water they can drink. Still waters are gentle enough for a fearful creature. They are not roaring, not rushing, not breaking over stones. They are near enough to approach, clear enough to receive. The shepherd understands the flock. He does not merely know that water exists somewhere. He knows what kind of water can be safely reached. The provision is shaped to the weakness of the sheep. This is the second movement of the psalm. pasture and water, food and drink, what is needed for life, given in a way the sheep can bear. The shepherd knows the weakness of the flock. He does not mock it. He leads it. He restoreth my soul. He restoreth my soul. The word restore carries return in it. Something spent is renewed. Something wandering is brought back. Something frightened is steadied again. The psalm does not pretend the sheep is never tired. It does not pretend the path never wears on the feet. It says the shepherd restores. Then the path continues. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. The shepherd knows the right tracks. Sheep do not read maps. They do not see the whole land from above. They know the next step, the next slope, the next turn. The shepherd knows where the path leads. For his name's sake means the shepherd's own character is bound up with the keeping of the flock. His faithfulness is not casual. His care is not careless. He leads rightly because he is righteous. The psalm has moved from pasture to water to restored life to the right path. Then the path enters shadow. The valley, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. The psalm does not avoid the valley. It does not say the shepherd only leads through open fields. It does not say there are no shadows. It says the path can go through the valley of the shadow of death. The valley is narrow. The light is low. The way ahead may be hard to see. Sound changes in a valley. A step can echo. A stone can shift underfoot. Danger can feel nearer there. The phrase is not simply sadness and not simply ordinary darkness. It is the shadow of death. David gives the valley its full name, and yet he does not stop walking. The shepherd's presence makes passage possible. But the psalm changes voice in the valley. Before this, David has spoken about the Lord. He maketh, he leadeth, he restoreth. Now he speaks to him, for thou art with me. That is the center of the psalm, not merely that God gives pasture and water, not merely that God knows the path, but in the valley itself the shepherd is present. Thou art with me. The evil is not denied, the shadow is not erased, but fear is not given the final word. Rod and staff, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. The comfort is not vague. It is carried in the shepherd's hands. The rod is strength, authority, protection, a weapon against what would harm the flock. The staff is guidance, a tool for drawing back, steadying, directing, keeping the sheep close to the path. Together they show the shepherd's care as both strong and tender. The sheep are not comforted because the valley is imaginary. They are comforted because the shepherd is real and because he carries what the valley requires. The table. Then the image changes. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. The psalm moves from shepherd and sheep to host and guest. A table is prepared, not in a hidden corner after every threat has vanished, but in the presence of enemies. The danger has not been allowed to define the meal. The host is not hurried. The table is not bare. The image is striking because the enemies are still named. The psalm does not say they never existed. It says a table is set even there. The Lord's provision is public, steady, and unashamed. There is bread. There is a place. There is honor. There is provision in the open. The Lord who leads through the valley also welcomes at the table. Oil and cup. Thou anointest my head with oil. Oil speaks of welcome, healing, honor, and blessing. A guest is received, not merely tolerated. The head is anointed. The person is treated with care. My cup runneth over. The psalm is no longer speaking only of enough to survive. The cup overflows. Provision has become abundance. Pasture was enough. Water was enough. A path through the valley was enough. But here, at the table, the cup runs over. The shepherd is also host. The keeper is also giver. The one who guarded the way now fills the cup. Goodness and mercy. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. The word follow can feel almost too gentle. In the psalm, goodness and mercy are not weak things trailing far behind. They are the steady company of God's care. They pursue the life of the one who belongs to the shepherd, not only on green pasture days, not only beside still waters, not only after the valley is past, all the days of my life. The psalm has covered the whole way: need, provision, weariness, restoration, right paths, shadow, protection, table, honor, abundance. Now it speaks of every day gathered under goodness and mercy, the house of the Lord. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The journey ends in a house, not an endless wandering, not only a field for a season, a dwelling place, belonging, a final home in the presence of the Lord. The psalm began with a sheep under care. It ends with a person dwelling in God's house. The images change, but the care remains the same. Shepherd, host, keeper, giver, the Lord is present through all of it. The sheep led by the shepherd becomes the guest welcomed by the host, and the guest becomes one who dwells in the house. That as the shape of the psalm. The whole path, read the path again as one movement. It begins with the Lord himself. The Lord is my shepherd. Everything else flows from that. Because the Lord is the shepherd, there is no want. Because he leads, there are green pastures and still waters. Because he restores, the soul is not abandoned in its weariness. Because he guides in righteousness, the way is not random. Then the path enters the valley. The valley does not cancel the shepherd. It reveals the comfort of his nearness. The rod and staff are not distant symbols. They are the tools of present care. They correct, guard, guide, and defend. Then the image opens into hospitality, a table, oil, a cup. The Lord does not merely get his servant through danger and leave him outside. He welcomes him. He honors him. He gives more than bare survival. Finally, goodness and mercy follow, and the house of the Lord stands ahead. The psalm has only 6 verses, but it carries a full journey: need, provision, restoration, guidance, darkness, comfort, welcome, abundance, pursuit by mercy, and dwelling with God. That is why it has stayed close to the hearts of so many people. It tells the truth about the valley without making the valley final. It tells the truth about enemies without giving them the last word. It tells the truth about weakness while placing all confidence in the shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. That is the first line, and the whole psalm rests there. The Lord is my shepherd. He gives what is needed. He restores what is worn. He leads through the valley. He comforts with rod and staff. He prepares the table. He anoints with oil. He fills the cup. Goodness and mercy follow, and the house of the Lord stands at the end of the way. The nearness in the middle one of the strongest turns in Psalm 23 is easy to miss. At first, David says he maketh me to lie down. He leadeth me. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness. But in the valley he says thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. The danger does not make God less personal. It makes the address more direct. David is no longer only speaking about the shepherd. He is speaking to him. That is part of the comfort of the psalm. The valley may be dark, but it is not empty. The shepherd is not described as watching from the ridge while the sheep walks alone below. He is with him there, close enough for rod and staff to comfort. The psalm's confidence therefore deepens in the hardest place. The valley becomes the place of direct address. Why the psalm holds Psalm 23 holds because it does not depend on one scene only. If life were only pasture, the psalm would be too small for the valley. If life were only valley, the psalm would forget the green mercy already given. If life were only enemies, the table would seem impossible. If life were only wandering, the house of the Lord would never appear. But David gives all of it: pasture, water, paths, valley, rod, staff, table, oil, cup, goodness, mercy, house. The Lord is enough for each place. In the pasture he provides. By the waters he leads. In the soul he restores. On the path he guides. In the valley he is near. Before enemies he prepares a table. With oil he honors. With the cup he gives abundance. With goodness and mercy he follows. With his house he gives a dwelling. That is why the psalm is not fragile. It can be spoken in peace, and it can be spoken in fear. It can be spoken at a bedside, on a road, in a church, in a field, or in grief. Its confidence is not in the steadiness of the sheep. Its confidence is in the shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. The psalm is complete.